You've seen my backpack, you've seen my sleeping bag, you've seen some of the other equipment that I used on my through hike in 1981 of the Appalachian Trail. What else did I use? Well, in today's episode, I'll show you. Hello, welcome to another episode of Baystate Backcountry. I'm your host, Bob Tremblay. If you're new to this channel, my name's Bob Tremblay. I work as a professional outdoor leader and guide and instructor. I'm a professor at a local community college where I'm the department chair of adventure education outdoor leadership. In addition to my through hike in 1981 of the Appalachian Trail, I have consistently, to this day, still do spend a lot of my time in the outdoors doing all different sorts of activities. But anyway, today we're going to talk about some more of the gear that I used in 1981 on the through hike of the AT compared to what I use today. So in 1981, when we through hiked the Appalachian Trail, first off I should say is that I was 18 years old and I started off with 3 of my high school buddies. 2 of them had to leave for various reasons. We'll talk about that in the third episode. We did cook all of our meals together, so we actually had 2 stoves. So one of the stoves that we had in 1981 was this. This is the actual Coleman Peak 1 stove that I used on the AT. The only thing that's different about this is that this pump is a little bit longer because the original pump blew out, and this is actually one that I used that I took from a larger 2-burner stove, so it doesn't kind of go quite down as flush. But this is the stove that I carried on the AT. So this was what we lived off of for 5 months, and then I used it for years later. It still works, but I don't use it anymore. It's more of a memorial piece. But anyway, we were very happy with this. This burned Coleman white gas. It simmers. It had an adjustable arm right here, so once you lit it, it could simmer, and you could really cook things really well, not just boil things. And so this is what we used, but we also had a second stove. And the other stove we had was very much like this. Here's a real collectible. I still have it in the box. This is an Optimus 8R. And so the Optimus 8R, if you've never seen one, I mean, this one's a mint, new in the box shape. You even have the instructions with it. So this, it comes in this little metal container. You open it up, and then the fuel pump and the burner are right here. You've got your key to turn on. This one has actually never been used. It's a real collectible. But this is exactly like our second stove was. So this also used white gas. It also, you didn't pump it up. You just kind of primed it, and it would get going. And you had a little valve to kind of turn it on. So again, what was good about both these, they had really nice grills to kind of hold a larger pot because we were cooking for 3 or 4 of us. But compared to stoves today, they're pretty heavy and pretty bulky. I don't think you'd see anyone carrying one of these today. But anyway, those were great at its time. I want to share with you though, is that as bulky as these look, the Coleman, when they came up with this, we thought it was a revolution because this is their stove that they had previously. I did not bring this on the AT, but this was what Coleman originally thought was a backpacking stove. This thing must weigh 4.5 pounds. It works the exact same way as this. It's basically the same stove. They just lightened it up for the Peak 1. This became the backpacking stove that I really preferred for many, many years. It replaced this. So anyway, there's some stuff from way back in the day. So now in 2023, what I use is an MSR Whisper Light. So these MSR stoves, you can kind of see the entire stove is inside of this stuff sack. Kind of compare that to this. Maybe it kind of looks the same size. This is probably half the weight. And to assemble the stove is you actually use the fuel bottle itself as the tank for the stove to operate. So this is just much more efficient. It's super easy to work on in the field. It's much lighter, and it really is sort of like the standard today. It's not that easy to actually kind of simmer and cook on. There's some tricks that you can do, but those are kind of advanced. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. But this will boil water very, very quickly. It'll boil ice very quickly. So this is a really good, reliable, simple, lightweight backpacking stove that I use today. For something that's even more simple, that the real extreme lightweight folks go with, is what they do is they actually use a little can of cat food. They punch these holes in the side, and then what you do is you fill this with cooking alcohol, and you just you light that alcohol, just pour it right in there. There's no moving parts, and you put your pot right on top of there, and you cook with this. This is an extreme lightweight example. Actually, a student of mine who through Hike the AT used this and gave it to me. So this is what, if you want to go like really minimalist, you can go with just this little cat food can stove. So anyway, there's stoves then and now. Continuing with the cooking theme, this is the pot set that I carried on the AT. So you can see what this pot set consists of. There is a folding fry pan, and there is this large pot, and inside the pot there's a smaller, kind of like a coffee pot. And then in here we carried a measuring cup. So this is what we use on the AT. Again, we're cooking for 3 or 4 of us at any given time, so we had a little bit of a larger kit, but this is what we use. Took up a lot of space, weighs quite a bit, but divided 3 ways, kind of reduce that down. What I use today is I mostly am just kind of taking care of myself, because my students take care of themselves, and this is what I carry today as my complete cook kit. So this is actually an MSR pot. As you see, it folds. It's titanium. And so there I have a little pot. It's great for kind of cooking, for boiling water, or cooking things that, soups and rice and, pasta dishes that I use. And then I just eat right out of this. So this is my entire kitchen when I'm on backpacking trips today in 2023. So this is what I used way back in the day. This is what I use today. Now let's talk about water purification. In 1981, when I hiked the Appalachian Trail, I can honestly say is that other than the water that we boiled when we cooked, we did not purify drinking water at all. So all the water that we collected for 5 months as we were hiking was collected from natural water sources, from streams, lakes, and ponds. And like I said, we did not add anything to it, we didn't filter it, we didn't purify our water at all. Now the water that we used to cook, of course, we boiled, and so that treated it and killed anything that could have been harmful to us. But for drinking water, as we went along, we just drank it straight. Now back in 1981, beaver was, I want to say, they weren't extinct from the East Coast, but they really weren't very common. And so beavers are the mammal. All mammals can spread giardia, but beavers are the ones that get the rap, because they poop in the water, and that spreads, their feces spreads the giardia. When you ingest giardia, you get really intense stomach cramps and uncontrollable diarrhea. Not something you want to have. At the very least, it's very uncomfortable. Worst case scenario, it can be debilitating or even worse. But anyway, in 1981, that wasn't a concern. We did not treat a single drop of water. So water purification in 1981, none. What I do today, I do a couple of things. Of course, the water that we cook with, we're treating with heat, so we're boiling it. But another really simple thing that I use is I carry this eyedropper. This has chlorinated bleach in it, and so this chlorinated bleach, I will add 3 drops of this to a quart of water, give it 15 minutes, and this will purify the water by chemically killing the giardia that's in the water. Use this. And then the other thing that I'm really happy with, I've been using this for about 12 years now, this is a SteriPen. And so what the SteriPen is, it's battery operated, and it has this ultraviolet light on it. And so what you do with this is that you collect your water from a natural source, and then I often will filter it with a bandana. But then to kind of purify it and kill things, I take the water, I put this SteriPen in the water so the bulb is completely submerged. You turn it on, stir it a little bit. It takes 90 seconds. This will flash. You'll see it kind of flashing like a strobe light. And those ultraviolet rays that it emits kills the giardia that's in the water. So there's, it only takes 90 seconds. There's no taste. It's been very, very effective. I carry this and my chlorine just in case my batteries go. So these are the two things that I use today. There's a lot of beaver around now. There's a lot of giardia in all of our water sources. I would not drink water untreated today. In 1980, we did. So moving on from water purification, we'll start talking about lighting. And so for lighting, when we hiked the AT, is we carried headlamps, which were really crude. They used we had two different types. We either had the kind that had the separate battery pack that you wore in your pocket, and then you wore on your head, and you had a big bulb, a really big lamp on your head. You had literally light bulbs in it you had to replace when they blew out, so there'd be a spare light bulb inside of the head. Very heavy, very bulky, really kind of hurt your head. They weren't, they were handy, but they were bulky. They're not the kind of thing you use today. We also used a lot of candles. So when we were in camp and kind of laying out for the night in the shelters, we would light a candle and we'd read by candlelight. These days what I use is I really like these Phoenix headlamps. This thing right here is super bright, really lightweight, and it has a rechargeable battery in it. It also, the rechargeable battery that it uses is the same battery that is used in my SteriPen. So I like the fact that they're interchangeable. But anyway, these are extremely light, easy to wear on your head, extremely bright. I like these so much and they're so light that I often will carry two at a time, just because if I need the battery from one for my SteriPen, I do that and I still have a light. I really recommend these. These are the Phoenix headlamps. I think these are the lightest and brightest headlamps on the market for backpacking use. So that's lighting, then and now. Now I'm going to talk about navigation. So to navigate on the Appalachian Trail back in 1981 is the Appalachian Trail Conference, the ATC, sold this set of guidebooks. So there's a set of 10 guidebooks. They had a textual description mile by mile of the section of the trail. So you had 10 guidebooks for 10 different sections of the trail. And then along with the guidebooks, they came with these maps, which I thought were really great. So they were topographic maps. They highlighted the Appalachian Trail on it. They showed where the shelters were. And then what we really liked is down here, they also had a profile graph that kind of showed the ups and downs. So we had all 10 of these books with all the map sets, and we pored over these. So this is what we used back in the day in 1981. Today, for navigating, is I use my phone. There's a lot of different apps that are out there right now that people use. What I like is Gaia. And Gaia, I can actually pull up topographic maps and trail maps here on my phone. It pinpoints where I am, and then I just use this very often. Now, in reality, when I'm on an expedition, I'll always carry paper maps because I don't want to rely on my electronics entirely. But anyway, the point being now is that the technology exists where you could literally go out with just your phone as your navigation source. I'm old school. I still like to read maps, and I'm very comfortable with a compass. So I like the paper maps. But anyway, here's the difference. Back in the day, we had 10 books with maps. Now you could go out there with just your phone. Now we'll talk about photography. So in 1981, when we hiked the Appalachian Trail, we wanted to take pictures as we went along, as anyone would. And what we used back then was a 35 millimeter camera. So this is a film camera. It used 35 millimeter film. You would put the film in the back, you'd wind it, you would, your roll of film might have 24 or 36 exposures. Once you filled your canister, you'd have to put more film into it. And then of course you couldn't see your photographs until you brought them to a lab that would process the film and then print out the images for you to see. So you could easily go, especially on the AT, you could go several weeks without seeing your photographs. And again, because it was using film photography, you were kind of stringent about like how many pictures you took, because you really kind of had a limited amount. Today, what I use is my digital camera, which I'm talking to you on right now, but I'll show you a picture of the camera. And of course, digital photography changes everything, because you can do video and stills as well. The camera that I use today is a camera that I'm talking to right now, that I shoot all my videos with. Of course, you can also use your phone. All right, so you can use your phone. So not only is your phone your navigator, your phone is your photography, your camera, for photography images as well, and video. So technology has changed quite a bit there. Along that line too is with the phone is communication. Is when we hiked the AT, there's no such thing as cell phones. I mean, that was something from Dick Tracy comics back when I was 18. And so what we would do is when we would get to a town, we would go and use a payphone. So you would go to a phone booth with a payphone, you'd put a dime in, and then we would make collect calls home. So for those of you who don't know what a collect call is you would talk to the operator, you'd say, I want to make a collect call. I would say it to my parents, I'd give the number, making a collect call from Bob. And so the phone would ring at my parents' house, they would pick up, the operator would say to them, you have a collect call from Bob, do you accept the charges? They would say yes, and then we'd be able to talk. So in 1981, we didn't even have calling card. Now, of course, people have cell phones, and as long as you have coverage, people are calling from probably every step of the trail. You almost could now. So there you have it. There's part 2 of my then and now look at the equipment that I use on the AT between 1981 and the equipment that I use now in 2023. I know there's a lot of you getting ready and planning your AT hikes right now, so hopefully there's something here that's helpful to you. In my next episode that I'm going to do that's part of this trilogy, is I'm going to take out all my old photographs and I'm going to talk about my trip itself from 1981, going from Maine to Georgia, because I was a southbounder. So I'm going to kind of share stories of our hike, our 5-month hike. I'll talk about our motivations, why I went out there and did it, and I'll talk about what I learned from the experience as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you like it. If you like it, please click like. If you have any questions, feel free to make comments or questions. And then I hope you'll look for the first episode if you haven't seen it, and I hope you'll keep your eye open and subscribe so you don't miss our 3rd episode. Thanks for watching.